the year 1860, the United States was a nation on the brink, a house divided against itself. The North and South were locked in a bitter struggle over the future of slavery, state rights, and the very identity of the nation. And at the center of this storm was a man who, in many ways, was as unexpected as he was remarkable: Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln wasn't the obvious choice for president. He was a self-taught lawyer from the backwoods of Illinois, a man of humble origins who had risen to prominence not by birthright, but by sheer force of will. And yet, it was precisely this unassuming background that made him the perfect candidate for a nation in turmoil. The Democratic Party, meanwhile, was tearing itself apart. Unable to agree on a single candidate, they split into factions, weakening their chances and paving the way for Lincoln's victory. But this victory came at a cost, one that would soon become apparent. The South saw Lincoln's election as the final straw. Fearing the loss of their way of life, they began to secede from the Union, forming the Confederacy. What had started as political disagreement was now escalating into a full-blown crisis. Lincoln understood the gravity of the situation. He knew that preserving the Union would require not just political skill, but immense courage and determination. The road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty, but for Lincoln, there was no turning back. By the spring of 1861, the United States had reached a breaking point. The secession of Southern states had transformed political tensions into an inevitable conflict. On April 12, 1861, the first shots were fired at Fort Sumter, marking the beginning of the Civil War, a war that would become the bloodiest in American history. Fort Sumter, a Union stronghold in the heart of Confederate territory, became the first flashpoint. The Confederate forces, eager to assert their independence, bombarded the fort for 34 hours, forcing its surrender. This event ignited a conflict that would rage for long years, tearing the nation apart. President Lincoln, faced with this unprecedented challenge, responded decisively. On April 15th, he called for 75,000 volunteers to suppress the rebellion. What began as a call to restore order quickly escalated into a full-scale war as more states joined the Confederacy and the Union mobilized for battle. The war spread rapidly, engulfing the entire nation. From the rolling hills of Virginia to the vast plains of the West, every corner of the country felt the impact. The Union, with its industrial might and larger population, seemed to hold the advantage, but the Confederacy, fighting for its way of life, proved to be a formidable opponent. For the soldiers, North and South alike, the war was a test of endurance, courage, and loyalty. They marched into battle not knowing if they would return, driven by a sense of duty and, in many cases, a belief in the cause they were fighting for. As the war escalated, Lincoln faced unimaginable pressure. He knew that the fate of the nation rested on his shoulders. Every decision he made could tip the balance between victory and defeat, unity and disunion. And as the casualties mounted, the true cost of this conflict became painfully clear. As the Civil War raged on, President Abraham Lincoln found himself at the helm of a nation in crisis. Every decision he made could alter the course of history, and none was more significant or more controversial than his decision to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. On January 1, 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, a bold executive order that declared all enslaved people in Confederate-held territory to be free. This was not just a military strategy, but a profound moral stance, one that redefined the Union's war aims and the very nature of the conflict. The proclamation was met with a mix of reactions. For Union soldiers, it provided a new sense of purpose, transforming the war into a fight for freedom and human dignity. For the Confederacy, it was seen as an existential threat, galvanizing their resolve to resist. And for abolitionists, it was a long-awaited step towards justice, though they knew the fight was far from over. The Emancipation Proclamation didn't immediately free all enslaved people. It applied only to the Confederate states, where Lincoln's authority was not recognized. But it struck a significant blow to the Confederacy, undermining their labor force and weakening their war effort. It also paved the way for the eventual abolition of slavery throughout the entire nation. Lincoln's vision for the nation was now clear, a union not just preserved, but transformed, where freedom and equality were no longer ideals to be debated, but principles to be upheld. His leadership during this pivotal moment in history laid the groundwork for a new America, even as the war continued to exact a heavy toll. Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War was marked by courage, conviction, and a deep sense of moral responsibility. But his most enduring legacy was yet to come. November 1863, 4 months after one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln stood on the hallowed ground of Gettysburg to deliver what would become one of the most famous speeches in American history, the Gettysburg Address. Now, it's worth noting that Lincoln's Gettysburg Address was only about 2 minutes long, short enough to make a modern-day TED Talk look like a marathon. But those 272 words packed a punch that echoed across the ages. For 67 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. With these opening words, Lincoln reminded the nation of its founding principles while subtly nudging everyone to remember that these ideals were still a work in progress. And let's be honest, Lincoln probably had no idea that his 2-minute speech would be dissected by historians, memorized by schoolchildren, and quoted by every politician who ever wanted to sound profound. If he had known, he might have thrown in a few more jokes. But beyond its brevity, the Gettysburg Address captured the essence of what Lincoln's leadership was all about, redefining the Civil War not just as a struggle for the Union, but as a fight for the very soul of the nation. He spoke of a new birth of freedom, a vision that would guide America through its darkest days and into a future where liberty and equality could thrive. Lincoln's legacy, like the Gettysburg Address, is both profound and enduring. His words and actions during the Civil War set the course for a united nation, one that would emerge stronger and more committed to the ideals of freedom and equality. By early 1865, it was clear that the Civil War was drawing to a close. The Union armies, under the command of General Ulysses S. Grant, had worn down the Confederate forces, and the once powerful Confederacy was now on the brink of collapse. For Abraham Lincoln, this was a time of both relief and uncertainty. Lincoln had carried the weight of the war on his shoulders for long years. He had seen the nation torn apart, with brother fighting against brother, and the fields of America turned into battlefields. But now, as the end of the war seemed within reach, Lincoln began to look forward to a future of peace and reconciliation. On April 9, 1865, General Robert E. Lee surrendered the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia to General Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. This moment effectively marked the end of the Civil War, as other Confederate forces soon followed suit. For Lincoln, the victory was bittersweet. He knew that the true challenge of rebuilding the nation was just beginning. After years of war, Lincoln was finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. He even allowed himself a rare moment of relaxation, attending a play at Ford's Theater, though, given how things turned out. Maybe he should have stuck to Netflix. Tragically, Lincoln's moment of respite would be his last. On the evening of April 14, 1865, as he watched a performance of Our American Cousin, Abraham Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer who sought to avenge the South's defeat. The president was mortally wounded and died the next morning, becoming the first American president to be assassinated. Lincoln's assassination sent shock wave across the nation. The man who had led the country through its greatest crisis was gone, leaving a void that would be felt for generations. But while his life was cut short, his legacy was immortalized. He was the leader who preserved the Union, ended slavery, and set the stage for America's rebirth. Though his life was tragically cut short, Abraham Lincoln's impact on American history is undeniable. Join us in the final chapter as we reflect on Lincoln's enduring legacy and how his leadership during the Civil War continues to shape the nation today. As we conclude our journey through the life and presidency of Abraham Lincoln, it's clear that his legacy extends far beyond the confines of his time. From his rise from humble beginnings to his pivotal role in preserving the Union and ending slavery, Lincoln's influence is woven into the very fabric of American history. Lincoln's vision of a new birth of freedom has endured, inspiring generations to strive for a more perfect union. His Gettysburg Address, with its call for equality and unity, continues to resonate today, reminding us of the principles upon which this nation was founded. Lincoln's legacy lives on in the classrooms, in the hearts of citizens, and in the continuing pursuit of justice and equality. His leadership during the Civil War not only saved the Union, but laid the groundwork for the civil rights advancements that would follow. Though Lincoln's presidency was marked by immense struggle and personal sacrifice, his achievements have left an indelible mark on the nation. His dedication to justice, his resilience in the face of adversity, and his unwavering commitment to the ideals of democracy make him a timeless symbol of leadership and moral fortitude. As we reflect on Lincoln's enduring legacy, we are reminded of the power of leadership grounded in principle and compassion. His story is a testament to the belief that even in the darkest times, hope, courage, and dedication to what is right can lead to a brighter future. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Abraham Lincoln's remarkable life and presidency. If you enjoyed this journey through history, be sure to subscribe for more compelling stories and insights. Until next time, keep seeking out the stories that shape our world